Lesson 15, Daredevils, Operation Desert Hell, Fighting Oil Well Fires. A safety engineer once asked Red Adair to take off his tin helmet and wear a plastic safety helmet instead. It was regulation, and the engineer insisted. Adair tried to explain the work he and his firefighters did was far too hot for plastic helmets. The engineer wouldn't listen. At last, Adair suggested the engineer put on the plastic helmet himself and accompany Adair on a short walk. I took that dude down as close to the fire as he could stand it and stood there with him. The brim of the plastic hat of his started to melt, added Adair. I think he began to get an idea of how hot a well fire can be. The safety engineer should have listened to Adair in the first place. Adair knew more about fighting oil well fires than anyone else. Over his long career, Paul Red Adair had killed oil well fires all over the globe. In 1962, he capped a burning Algerian well known as the Devil's Cigarette Lighter. In 1970, he extinguished a massive blaze off the coast of Louisiana. In 1988, he conquered a raging inferno in the North Sea. Whenever there was trouble in an oil field, the word went out, "Get a Red Adair and get him quick." Battling oil well fires is among the most hazardous occupations in the world. The heat from such a blaze could reach 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. When a firefighter approaches a burning well, the soles of his shoes may begin to blister. The cuffs of his pants may smoke. Adair once had a credit card melt in his pocket. As Larry Arnold, a member of Adair's firefighting crew, said, "When you smell your mustache burning, you know you're too close." Over the years, Red Adair and his crew put out dozens of seemingly unstoppable oil well fires. Then, in 1991, the Persian Gulf War resulted in a challenge that made all the previous fires seem like child's play. Earlier, the nation of Iraq had invaded and conquered its tiny, oil-rich neighbor, Kuwait. The U.S. and other nations responded by driving the Iraqis out of Kuwait in Operation Desert Storm. Before leaving Kuwait, the Iraqis ignited over 500 oil wells. These fires burned more than 6 million barrels of oil a day. Crude oil was going up in flames at a rate of $1,000 a second. The black smoke was so dense it blotted out the noonday sun and fouled the atmosphere, as far away as Hawaii. It seemed as if the whole nation was on fire. Dave Wilson, an engineer in Kuwait, said at the time, "You half expect to see little guys with pitchforks and tails coming out of the ground." It was little wonder the task of extinguishing these fires came to be known as Operation Desert Hell. The job was far too big for the 75-year-old Red Adair and his company alone. 3 other firefighting companies joined the effort. These companies were Boots & Coots and Wild Well Control from Texas, and Safety Boss from Canada. Nobody had ever seen a situation quite like this one. There was nothing but fire, smoke, and sticky pools of oil all over the place. Desert winds blowing 50 miles per hour fanned the flames of the burning wells. With so much oil around, any random spark could ignite a fire. One day, 2 journalists got their car stuck in a pool of oil. 3 other men who had been driving a water truck stopped to help out. Without warning, the oil caught fire, blowing up both vehicles and killing all the men. The searing heat consumed just about everything. Rescuers found only a set of leg bones, a charred spinal column, and a skull fused to the springs of the car seat. Danger lurked everywhere in the overpowering heat of the Kuwaiti desert. The burning wells and pools of oil were obvious dangers. There were other hazards as well. Kuwait had been ground zero in the Persian Gulf War. Iraqi soldiers had planted mines in the Kuwaiti desert. The United States and its allies had dropped bombs. Some of the mines still remained. Some of the bombs hadn't exploded when they hit the ground. Now these deadly devices were completely covered with oil. One day a camel stepped on one, blowing itself to pieces. "Every day I'm in the field," joked one firefighter, "I find 3 or 4 new ways to die." Candy-striped tape was used to identify those parts of the desert that had been cleared of mines and bombs. Anyone who walked elsewhere could end up like the camel. Killing an oil well fire requires patience as well as courage. When a well has been burning for a while, the superhot blaze of burning oil creates a lava-hard mound of coke around the wellhead. The mound has to be knocked down to expose the wellhead. This task is accomplished with a tractor equipped with a 70-foot boom that scrapes away at the mound. It sometimes takes several hours to find a weak spot in the mound. When the mound finally collapses, the well explodes with shattering force. Certainly it takes guts to operate a tractor so close to the well. Once the wellhead is exposed, The fire can be snuffed out either by drowning it with torrents of water or by dropping dynamite on it. Many of the Kuwaiti wells were simply too hot to be killed alone. They required blasting. Once the fire is extinguished, however, the most fearful part begins. At that point, oil is still spraying out of the well. To stop the spray, firefighters must go to the well and cap it, knowing any moment the tiniest spark or wind-blown ember could cause the fumes in the air to flash or burst into flames, killing them all. On ordinary jobs, there is only one fire to extinguish. The problem in Kuwait was different. On another job, you've got only one fire, explained Coots Matthews of Coots and Boots. On this one, you just go on to another well. The job of killing and capping more than 500 raging well fires began early in March 1991. It took the firefighters 8 months to finish the job. The total cost to Kuwait was estimated to be in excess of $5 billion. The precious oil resources that the Iraqis senselessly burned were lost forever. Without the determination and skill of the oil well fighters, the cost would have been much, much higher.